It's a very familiar spring sound, and one of these sounds to introduce us to spring, really. Talking about the chiff-chaff, which is calling. It's one of two here being Wellow Park, where I am today, and it just sounds lovely. There's no breeze. There's been a bit of rain, but I like the sound of the chiff-chaff, but I also like in the distance a call or a sound that always reminds me of childhood. You may well be able to hear it, but it's the sound of rooks. There's a wood just away from Wellow Park here at the top of the hill, and I'm presuming that there's a rookery in there, and the rooks are fast rebuilding the nests, and some have probably already got eggs. But we're just after mid-March, and I'm here today for a Harvestmen. Well, this looks very different from, well, less than a year ago. Remember the hot weather of 2022? You may well have seen the video where I featured this bit of water-filled rut now on this forest track here down through Wellow Park. But when I featured it, this was as near as dry as anywhere else in Wellow Park, and I brought gallons of water to try and keep the mud damp, because the mud here in this rut was being visited by tens of thousands, literally, of insects and butterflies as well. The female purple emperor came down here, a number of commas, good numbers of white letter hair streak as well. But there's no need for me to bring any water now, because we're well topped up. What is sad is to see the almost ever-present rubbish, in this instance, a can of energy drink. Why is it that people that drink energy drinks in cans never seem to have the energy to take them back home and dispose of the cans or the bottles properly? It beats me. I can't understand the public, or the public that do drop the litter. And we're disgusting as a nation for dropping litter out of cars. Well, I think we'll be lucky today. I'm now in the area where I always recorded Megabunus diadema, and it's usually on this coppiced ash. Most of the trees here are ash. There's the odd bit of wych elm and occasionally a bit of sycamore, but although they are a small size, they do show up quite easily and quite well on the trunks of these trees. But they're quite skittish and are usually round the other side of the trunk as soon as you step forward to approach them. Got very good eyesight. There again, Megabunus diadema has the most fantastic come-to-bed eyes, complete with fabulous eyelashes. It's a marvellous beast, despite being a little tiny thing. At one time of day, this used to be a lovely dry path, but then the trials bikers discovered it, and this is a well-used route. At some time today, there'll be probably up to a dozen trials bikers coming along here, and it's really churned it up and made it quite a messy and slippy footpath, but we'll see how we go. Well, literally by some amazing coincidence, as you may well be able to see and hear, it's now raining quite heavily. So I was trying to find a bit of cover. I'm trying to find a bit of cover, not that this was it. Something scuttled into view from round this side. This is the wet side, obviously. it's now here. And rather than me track down Megabunus diadema, Megabunus diademas found me. And there in the centre of the screen is indeed Megabunus diadema. They are small. It's probably still got another molt to go, but this is another of our spring harvestmen. We don't have many spring harvestmen in the UK, but this is one of them. They'll certainly be present well into June. I've never done any sort of looking for the latest dates of this species. Maybe that's something I could do this year. But I was amazed. I've come down that ride, or that pathway that I initially showed you, looking for this little chap who's continually being disturbed by the rain. And I hadn't seen any, and I was trying to just stay dryish in this rain until the shower passes. And then this turned up. And I initially found it, it was about, or it found me, it was about 4 feet up the trunk, but it's now descended a good foot down and around. And that's another good way to find this species because of its small size. If I can put my grubby finger at the side of it, you'll see just how small this species is. And one of the ways I detect it is quite often by movement. They do tend to become quite unsettled, and off this one goes. And it is, despite its small size, this really is a magnificent invertebrate. And it's the eyes and the eyelashes, disproportionately large compared to the body size. And indeed, the length from head to tail, as it were, of this is little more than 3 millimeters. And I think the smallness of size is something which surprises many people and probably catches many people out. And this one's continuing its descent. And I'm going to try and find some shelter. Well, I didn't think we'd get this rain. The forecast said the odd shower, but this is quite a prolonged spell. But I do love to hear rain dripping off the trees and onto the dead leaves. It's a lovely, very relaxing sound, especially if you're sat in a nice warm house where you're nice and dry and perhaps got a cup of your favourite beverage. But it's lovely, it's very soothing. And as you can see from this shot, things are starting to grow. Just behind me there are the first wood anemone flowers just coming out. They're quite variable, wood anemone. Some places are not, the leaves aren't even showing yet, but I've just walked past a patch while looking for a bit of shelter that was in flower. Willow Park's a very undulating woodland, and I'm not actually going down there today. It'll soon be a year since I did, and down there it's a natural amphitheatre, great for singing birds or territorial males. I remember last year there was a missel thrush singing its head off, and the sound just carried. It's a beautiful spot down there, but we'll come and have another look at it in a week or two when the wooded enemies are out. Well, it's stopped raining, and I thought that further plans to try and find Megabunus diadema were probably gone, but I've walked into this one. This is smaller than the one that we looked at earlier. This is another Harvestman which doesn't have males. These are all females, self-fertile, which is otherwise known as parthenogenic. But this one's only maybe 2.5 millimeters in length, and it was movement that alerted me to this. This is only about just over 2 feet up the trunk, and there it goes. Well, here's another one. This is the fourth one that I've found. So they're obviously common. I thought it was probably the record count actually, but I'm just slowly working my way up through this sort of compartment here. And this one's about 4 mil long. It's pretty much fully grown. You just see it tucking itself up against that stem there of ivy. You'll probably have quicker success if you look on any smooth bark trees that do have some ivy on them. But again, it was the movement of this one moving across the trunk looking for cover that first alerted me to its presence. So that's 4 then. They are cracking little things. Pretty much anybody or everybody that gets into Harvestmen, this is the one species they all want to see. And I can understand why. Well, the rain's finally stopped. But rather than make things harder or more difficult and make Megabunus go for cover, it hasn't. In a way, strange kind of way, it's helped, because Megabunus is now going to be found on the dry sections of trunk, the dry sides. The rain that we've had appears to have come in from the west, so it's coming from that way. So half of the tree trunks on these coppice ash are now dry, and that's where Megabunus diadema is. So on the way back to the car, I'm going to have a steady walk through this habitat. It's quite a good habitat, but it's hard to walk through. But there's 1 or 2 insects that have appeared. There's a small moth flying around, which I think may be Permen giganteana, but it looked a little bit too small in flight for that. The other things that I found are kidney spot ladybird and 7-spot ladybird as well. Not seen many 7-spot ladybirds yet, but if I was to deliberately look for them, I dare say I'd turn up quite a few. And there's a nice spider as well, Cyclosa conica, which makes a cracking web. It's an orb weaver, but it's not an everyday occurrence or an everyday species to find, and it's another spider with a rather unusually shaped abdomen. So we'll see what else we can turn up. Well, I have found another Cyclosa conica, and if I put my hand at the back of this, you may well be able to see the spider. The spider is the uppermost of the 2 objects. The bottom one is a prey item, but up and down vertically from the centre of the web for about 1 centimetre, you'll see a thin line of silk. And one of the unusual things, if I remember right, about Cyclosa conica is that the females do this, and those lines of silk inevitably end up being almost cemetery or a dietitian's handbook of what the spider's eaten. And it's obviously taken something. This is pretty much adult. It may well have another molt to go, but hopefully you can see that. Well, judging by the sound of the number of birds that are singing, and they are in song now, everything is getting geared up towards breeding, and spring is definitely here. Still chance of another cold snap, a few frosty days and frosty nights. Very likely to happen during April. But now everything's in full force. There's quite a lot of insects that are now starting to ascend the trunks. A lot of flea beetles I've seen today, a lot of Philotreta type species. But things are happening, buds are bursting, and the woodland is just becoming alive. Alive after its winter slumber. It's alright, I'm not in slow motion. That's about as fast as I do go, but just experiencing the woodland. Shame had that rain for about half an hour, but it's alright now, it's dried up. But it's the perfect day to experience woodlands. There's not a breath of wind. It's mild. I was going to say that nuthatch is rather annoying, but it's stopped. It's nice to hear the bird song. Beautiful. Look at that. Chiff chaff there. Today it really feels like things have changed. That spring has now got the better of winter.